Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Anybody here can do the prayer? Come on.
Heavenly Father, thank you very much for allowing us to be together tonight in the best interest of helping other people and the camaraderie that we share together. Please keep all of our staff safe from harm's way and allow us to execute our mission flawlessly, taking care of each and every one of each other. Thank you very much for your many blessings, and with that, I ask that you continue to bless us all with your love, and thank you very much for everything you do for us. In your holy name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, so I'll share the screen. We'll go over our standard updates. Let me know when the meeting schedule is online.
Oh, we missed you.
Welcome, Bob. All right, so no guests today per se. So Robert is hopefully already is a member. We're just waiting for formalities to get through the process, and we will officially welcome you aboard. And probably by next meeting should be in. Few updates. So at the moment, Major Pratt is temporarily transferred out of Squadron 5 to act as interim Group 3 commander until the new Group 3 commander selection is completed and the new commander receives the actual command. It is expected the decision will be made by the wing command sometime by end of this week, maybe sooner. So we will see how that goes. I did apply for the job. There are 2 other applicants, and the interviews took place last Sunday. So as of Sunday, at least after my interview, 1 more interview was still scheduled. So we'll see. And should I get chosen for the job, I will still be part of the squadron, of course. Not formally. Formally, I will not be part of the squadron, but I will continue coming to the meetings and actively participate in squadron life. We have new member, Alec Tsupa. He is currently overseas visiting his relatives in Europe. Once he gets back, we'll formally congratulate him getting into the unit. Good job, Lieutenant Colonel Swift, completing a more refresher training. Same goes to senior member Trigueros, Lieutenant Brizueta, for completing first mission observer flight. And I'll schedule sooner the better the second flight. And same goes for Paul Connor. Good job on the first mission scanner flight. We managed to close on multiple tasks, and we just need for all of you 1 more flight, and you'll be formally signed off as air crew for the CAP. Any questions so far? All right. So one of the assessments of past year, since this last month of the fiscal year for Civil Air Patrol, we didn't do a good job last year recognizing our members for the achievements. So next year we will do a better job. And I ask for our promotion review board and awards review board to look at the membership on a regular basis and bring it to my attention. And if I step up to the group command, to the commander attention of squadron, the list of awards, recognitions, and promotions on a timely basis. So for awards review, I suggest we will start doing it on a monthly basis. Just assess the performance of the members, see who is worthwhile recognition. Let's have a meeting virtually, it's fine. We have teams for that, and do a regular event at the end of every month to recognize members who put a lot of effort into it. Likewise, for promotions, I was doing that, and I continue doing that, but formally promotions review board should gather on a regular basis and actually assess who are due for promotions and who may be missing 1 or 2 steps to get promoted, so we can push each other and get developed over time. Moving on to aircraft updates. November 216 Charlie Papa, flying great. We have flown over 19 hours this airplane. We started with basic profiles, just ensuring that we can follow the break-in procedures for the engine. And the aircraft was behaving fantastically. We didn't see any problems. So at first we had one hour flight over the airport, north of airport, just making circuits in the sky for an hour with steady. So in case the engine fails, we have 2 options. We have riverside, we have flub up on the other side. It was no issue. The engine was running a little bit hot, but that was expected. And with every next flight, we were closely monitoring all the vitals of the engine and didn't see any issues, so we continue flying it. We took the airplane out of the shop with 10.5 quarts of oil. Right now it's at 9, so over almost 20 hours, it didn't burn much. And half of that quart at least went to the oil filter after we started the engine. So I think we are very well with the airplane, and let's continue flying it. For aircrew, you need proficiency, you need training. Reach out to me, reach out to Mike, reach out to Chris. We will schedule the pilot an airplane to get your objectives accomplished. For the pilots who are going through onboarding, I have provided a lot of information. I broke it down in very basic steps. So if anything is not clear, please don't hesitate to ask questions. So that's the key in civil air patrol. Unless you want to accomplish something, nothing's going to happen, right? So for those of you who went to SAREX, that's how it happens. It's hurry up and wait, and then you can wait all day long and nothing's going to happen unless you really go and push for the tasks you want to close during that event. So that's about 216 Charlie Papa. The call sign is actually CAP 416. The next airplane we expect in a group is Cessna 172, November 28 Foxtrot Alpha. No updates on ETA as of the moment. We work together with Squadron at the Hamid. They are primary point of contact. They will know when aircraft is ready for them, and we will schedule 216 Charlie Papa to drop off the air crew and pick up airplane in Arizona. Speaking of aircraft and overall wing, there was a very cool dashboard created by one of our fellow members in the wing, and I will demonstrate it. It's actually very, very cool. Let me see where it is. Oh, that's not it. This one. Give it a little bit of time to load, and I will share it on Teams. I'll share another one. Man, it's slow today. So most of the information, at least I'm sharing, is coming via email channel. So all members, new and old, please make sure you read your emails for Civil Air Patrol and you'll see all the invitations to the events, to the missions through that channel mostly. So this dashboard is actually using the data from e-services, and it has variety of data slices. For example, you can see aircraft log for the fiscal year. So for 2024, these are all aircraft. 95. That looks small. Let's see. Maybe it's a specific tail number. Selected. Let's see if it changes it. I'll see this one. Okay, so this is total hours flown by the wing over the year to date. The data is like 1 day old. It doesn't take into account whatever happened today. So you can see by the pilots who has the top performer from the top to the bottom. You see by the missions, by the type of missions, all rights, counter drag, etc., etc. And by aircraft. So you can see 337 Charlie Papa has logged 562 hours. That's impressive. The next, both two aircraft, 337 and 171, are Group 1 aircraft. They are rotating aircraft within the group from one place to another, and they really fly these things. 499 Charlie Papa is San Diego Group 8. So most missions this aircraft fly are cadet rides and things like that. We are not really, we have contributed quite a bit this year on 887 Charlie Papa. See, it has 278.5 hours. Most of it was flown by Group 3 before it was taken from us. And 216 Charlie Papa didn't fly much by us, wasn't flown much, but whatever it has logged, minus 19 hours, was done by San Diego Squadron and was sitting in the maintenance shop since basically May 1st. So overall, the aircraft utilization is pretty good at a national scale. I don't have current data for the present fiscal year, but usually California Wing is leading in terms of hours flown. We have less aircraft than Texas, but we are very close in number of hours. So we fly plenty of time. And you can see who is the highest performing pilots. You can slice by check pilots, who's giving most of the check rides in Form 5 and so on and so forth. So I already shared on Teams, I believe, this link to this dashboard, and if I forgot to submit to post it, then I will. It would be posted on the general channel. So I'll double check later, and you'll be able to see it. Any questions? So all this data, you can extract the data from e-services, but it's not as presentable as this. This is very, very good. Gentleman who did it spent a lot of effort into it. All right. I move back to my agenda. Upcoming event and training opportunities. Just a quick refresher. Tomorrow is IFR ground school for G1000. Highly recommended to all the pilots, at least. Maybe not so useful for mission observers in IFR situation, because they are actually focusing on approaches, holds, etc. And there are a couple of SAREX search and rescue exercises coming up September 14th and 15th in French Valley, and at Cable Airport the following weekend. There will be Miramar Air Show in September 27th, 29th, so there was an email communication about that subject, and I just noticed today there was an announcement about Pacific Air Show, which just came out. I didn't even have a chance to review it. And of course, if you plan to go to California Wing Conference, it's going to be in San Jose, and the link is available in this meeting minutes. Meeting minutes will be posted in the general channel as well, so you'll be able to review this information at a later time. Few updates. There are all rights planned for Saturday next week. Most likely I'll be flying in the morning for AFR OTC out of French Valley, and I'm looking for the pilot to fly your cadets on a Sunday. Okay, I'll get back to you with pilot name should I find one. It's kind of hard.
We appreciate it. They love flying.
Yeah, I enjoyed flying with two of you cadets. They're great. And we plan participating. Major Pratt will fly 216 Charlie Papa this coming weekend with Chris Younger for IPL, and I'll be flying for the Sarex event out of Cable the third weekend of the month. So this information not changed, so I'm not going in details here. Debriefing recent events. So as I mentioned earlier, we have flown 2 sorties for Mission Scanner and Mission Observer training for our squadron members, and I have flown 2 cadets from Squadron 31, and Major Ferris from Hamid has flown 3 cadets from Corona Squadron and 3 other cadets from Hamid Squadron. And today we have a presentation on Emergency Services Ground Team Overview by Lieutenant Gapasan, Squadron 31 Commander. So, Aaron, please. If you have any presentation material, you can load it here, or...
It's with the geniuses. So this morning, my laptop wouldn't keep charging. So I had to go run to the Apple store, and they deduced it as a bad battery. But apparently, if you have a MacBook, you have to ship it off to have the battery replaced. So we're going to wing it. So,
all right.
Ground Team 101,
floor
right?
is yours.
All right. So who knows anything about Ground Team and what Civil Air Patrol does for Ground Team? Anybody? No ideas whatsoever. Give me something. I like to be interactive.
Audience. You cannot go bad about it. Yeah?
What have you heard?
You
Somebody.
do other than flying.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what kind of things do they entail? What have you heard?
Okay. You climb up and down mountains.
ELT. That's what. Back in the day when I was a cadet, Ground Team was all encompassing. Now they've broken that up and they have urban direction finding, and they have Ground Team. The difference is pavement. Okay. So Ground Team, we go on dirt. UDF, they like staying on the hard stuff. That's really where the difference between the two are. What else have you heard about Ground Team? Very heavy on radio. Why do you think that is? Yes. Safety. Safety. A good buddy of mine who's a Group 3 commander, one of the things that he's trying to develop is HF radios to carry on our pack so we can get longer range, right? Because a lot of times we go off into the wilderness and your radio is only as good as if you can hit a repeater or communicate with somebody. So if we get into HF radios, we can communicate a lot further, especially when you're Ground Team, you lose line of sight really easily.
And you can microwave your brain.
Yeah, well, we all got to have fun, right? Pick your poison. What else have you guys heard? What are your thoughts about it?
Do they do search and rescue?
We do that. We do
all
that.
search and
We all
rescue.
do that. Okay.
Civil Air Patrol.
All right, so let's start here. What
What about UAVs?
unmanned aerial? It does fall under the ground branch, and we're starting to incorporate more and more of that. So that does fall under the ground branch, but we're starting to integrate between Ground Team with them, but they really kind of are their own entity. So when we had the SARX out of here, what was it, a month or two ago? one of the sorties that we did is we launched an airplane and we told them to DF a beacon. They produced coordinates and they dispatched a ground team to sit on standby and an SUAS team. So that SUAS team, they set up in their little pop-up tent and all of that other jazz, and they flew their search pattern and they found the target. And what was really interesting for me as a ground team leader is even though I placed the target, it was amazing the amount of information that I had. First I go, they got this big TV that's just a little bit smaller than this one. And you can see the target, which was a glider with about a 4-foot wingspan. You can see it right there. Well, that's pretty cool, but where is that, right? So they were able to fly up so high, but we couldn't see anything to reference on the landscape. So he says, well, put it on a 45 degree and then pull back. And then now I can sit here and I can see, okay, well, the target is here, but there's that landmark there. There's that landmark there. And I can go straight into where I need to go recover what I got to go get, right? It was an amazing thing that it just blew my mind the way that integration happened, okay?
Did they
So-
show GPS coordinates too?
Yes, that's a very big thing. I was showing Colonel Swift some of the CalTopo stuff that we're doing, or SARTOPO. That's something that's a real big part of where
Show it on the thing.
laptop is. I don't know if will that connect.
work.
That'll connect.
Yeah. You want help? Somebody help. Great delegation. Great leadership. I didn't say I'd do it. He's just establishing a need. I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader anymore. I'm one of you guys. We're an advisor to leaders. I know.
It's Bluetooth.
Sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm not.
He's in the basement.
Somebody help.
All right, we'll do this.
One of you IT guys.
All right. So while we're working through our technical difficulties, what are some of the objectives that an air crew does?
All you need to do is swipe the upper right-hand side and then just say, show it on there. And could have helped right to there.
So what are the things as air crew members? Because you guys are a flying squadron. What do air crew members do?
Fly the
Same
airplane.
thing except in the
Well,
air.
not you, but the other people. The right seat and back seat. What's your
Well,
guys'
depends-
jobs?
It depends on what seat. The back seat looks outside.
The
front
right seat and the
looks
back
forward.
seat.
We look
What's your
for
guys'
lost aircraft, lost people.
Okay.
search
So
and
you find a
rescue.
lost aircraft. What happens then?
Well, it depends where it is.
You mark it.
You mark it, right? So what happens? You come back, you debrief with your AOBD, and you give them a probability of detection, right? Okay, and then they got to figure out. It's got to run through planning, and planning's got to decide. Is there something there, or isn't there something there? So if the air guys say, you know what, I think something's there, what do you think could increase the probability of detection? You can send in a ground team. Okay. So back in October 2000, I was a cadet major with the program. I was a ground team leader as a cadet. Okay. I pulled up. Somebody rented a Cessna 150 out of Bartow Airport out of Central Florida. He rented it. He took off, and nobody ever heard from him again. Civil Air Patrol was out there for a week and a half looking for the guy. I was out there for the first week of it. Okay. I walk in. Hey, I'm a cadet ground team leader. I want to go stomping through the swamps and go find this guy. Right? It's Florida. It's swampy. That's what we do. Right? So they say you can't go out there because you're a cadet. So I shook hands with the IC because he said he needed help at the base. So I said, hey, I'll help you. And essentially I worked as a ground branch director, as an MSA. And I said, hey, I want to work as a scanner and observer because I'm 18 at this point. He says, I'll get you up in the air. We shook hands and we went to work, right? So the terrain in Florida is a lot different than the terrain here, okay? If you've ever been to Florida, they got this stuff called water, okay? In the summertime, it rains between 2 and 4 every day. It's very tropical. So this stuff grows, and it's very green. So when you're flying over, it's not like you're flying in the Palm Springs desert. If somebody goes kersplat, right, between Yucca Valley and Palm Springs, the likeliness of you seeing them is pretty high. Albeit they could be kind of scattered. Oh, man, do I really sound like that? Right? But if you put all of that.
That's it. Go on.
Test. Okay. So if you put a canopy over the search area, how much harder is that to find the target? How much harder is that to save a life? Right? So we had this area that we heard that possibly this individual may have gone down at, but we really couldn't tell. We boxed the grid and we searched our target grid twice, and it had enough probability that, you know what, let's go send a ground team in there. Okay? So what did they do? They sent the ground team in to this wooded area. Now you got boots on the ground. You spread out as a line, and everybody walked it side by side, looking left, right, up, down, and all around to see if they could find somebody. Okay? That's a practical use of what ground team does. Right? Who could think? Are we good now? All right. So what this is Cal Topo. And in Cal Wing, things are very much built around the integration side of things. What I mean by that is working with other agencies. In other wings, you got Civil Air Patrol has a much larger role. But here in California, we actually have a lot of population. So they have a lot of budget, which means they can pay for a lot more federal jobs and have even cooler toys than most people do. So here we're training with the SARTOPO program, or CalTOPO, which I believe you are entitled to a first responders account just by being in Civil Air Patrol. Now, I've heard that next year it'll go from a free account to a half price account, from what I understand. But this is really one of the things that we're trying to train for both the air branch as well as the ground branch. You know, for air branch, a lot of times everybody is using tracks and a lot of things are monitored that way. But this is a platform that goes across all the different agencies. So to give you an idea, I was driving through Riverside and I'm like, you know what, doggone it, I forgot to turn this thing on. Okay, so you can see my track, this red line. Everybody see that? And you can see me driving down the freeway. We won't talk about the rate of speed because I was running late, but we drove it to Whiteman, which is somewhere here nearby. Oh, yeah, right there. Oh, there it is. Okay, there's Whiteman where the ICP was. Now, as ground team, we departed from there and we went off to go play at 7,500 feet at this little campground to go do training. With CalTOPO, I left my phone on with the phone app on, and I believe on the red track. You can see me driving into the place. You can see me driving into the place, and you can see two of the ground team leaders who had it on, all the different places that were walking or marching around. Okay. So when it comes to ground team, the whole purpose is to try to save a life, right? You can have a lot of fun while doing the training, but at the end of the day, your role is to really be that ground side of it. The air branch, you can effectively search a larger area, but we're the ones that go in there and go try to find it. The Marine Corps mission that happened earlier this year, we couldn't get an airplane up in the air for that one because there was snow, you know, and that's part of the reason why there was a crash. But one of our ground teams was in the mix. That was one of the first people that were there to find them. Okay. Now, obviously, we know what happened there, but they were there to try to save a life. From the air, you can't really go down and offer medical attention with somebody, right? It's very hard unless you brought a parachute. And the pilot might have a bit of an issue if you try jumping out from behind the seat, right? But ground team, you're in there to go try to save somebody. Now, there's a lot of different things that you may do. You know, you may be doing something like delivering paper. You might be delivering a device. If I'm not mistaken, last month or so, we delivered equipment to some of the fires that were in Northern California. That's still ground team, okay? So whenever there's a task to do that's done on the ground, that essentially you're leaving the pavement, that's ground team. So it doesn't have to be plane wreckage. A lot of the ELT stuff that I did as a cadet, which we don't do as much, is EPIRBs. We had a knack for knocking on people's doors at 1 o'clock in the morning because they backed in their boat a little too hard and set off the EPIRB, and we had to go knocking on the door at 1 a.m. saying, hey, did you know your EPIRB is going off? Hopefully, it's Florida. They don't shoot you in the middle of the night, right? Okay. So, what are some of your other perceptions about ground team? You do get to buy really cool camping gear. It is kind of fun.
And you can ride it off as an expense.
I wish somebody told me that last year.
You can still ride it this year.
So, for me, this is my 24-hour pack. Okay, this is designed for me to go out into the field for 24 hours. I should be able to go out, not die, know enough to not pet the rattlesnake, and come back alive and breathing after 24 hours. Okay? That's essentially what a ground team member 3 is. You have the enough equipment and knowledge to be able to go out, know enough not to pet the rattlesnake, and come back uninjured and alive after 24 hours. Ground team level 2 means you can go out for 48 hours. Okay? And ground team member 1 means you can go out for 72 hours. All right? Ground team leader, you're ultimately the one that's responsible for everybody. Okay? Your job is everybody's safety above all. Above even completing the task and mission at hand. Safety is above all. And how you progress through the ranks, your knowledge of it, you start with a 3 as a ground team 3, and really you're just kind of a hand, right? If I come up to a site, maybe I need to do security. I'm going to post a ground team number 3. I'll have to say, okay, make sure nobody gets past you. Okay? I'm going to stage you out, maybe something that's not as important. Ground team level 2 has a lot to deal with land navigation, okay, which is important. You can't exactly stretch a tape to say, hey, you know what? That's 50 yards from here to that tree. But you can know how many paces it takes you to cover that 50 yards, which is a much more efficient way to do land navigation, so you don't get lost in the woods. One of the first things they teach you is don't become part of the search, right? If you go in, it's the classic first aid they teach in first aid, right? Somebody is over in a room and somebody's laid out, and then somebody goes in to go checks on that person, and then they pass out. And then the next person comes in, they see 2 people passed out. So what do? They go in and check the first 2 people, and then that person pass out, and so on and so on and so on, right? Don't become part of the search. Ground team level 1, really you are an advanced operator. You're really the right hand of the ground team leader. And between the ground team level 1 and the ground team leader, you're really the people that really kind of execute that mission, okay? And in ground team leader, again, you're the ultimate one that is responsible for everybody getting home safe and getting the job done, okay? So my experience with it, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. If you like working with cadets, I don't know about all of you guys are senior squadron, but I had divorced parents. My mother wore Army boots, so did my dad, for a combined 46 years, right? And you had the squadron, that was your family growing up. And there was a lot of people that I was exposed to that was a family member or a positive mentor in my life, right? And when you get to those adolescent years and those early 20 years when you think you know everything and you just need to be humbled a little bit, sometimes it's the lessons that you learn from those people that help guide you down the right path. And cadets do a lot of stuff with ground teams, so it gives you an opportunity to work with cadets and be that kind of mentor. And to be honest with you, it's a whole lot of fun. You have a whole lot of fun during the training while doing a lot of this stuff. You go backpacking, you can go camping, you can go hiking. In March we went up to Big Bear, right? And we did a 5-mile hike covering 2,000-foot elevation changes. That kicked my butt. At the beginning of August, we did ESTA, you know, and we went up to, I forget where we were, but we're at 7,500 feet. We're camped out, you know, in a tent. And, you know, it was fun. We were just camping and training and doing some cool, fun stuff. You get to build a fire, sing Kumbaya, and watch cadets fight each other over MRE scraps, right? It's a fun time. So if you're thinking about getting into ground team, I'd encourage it. We're kind of waiting, put on my Group ES officer hat. We kind of got a plan for next fiscal year where we want to build base staff, ground staff, air crew, and kind of put classes for family prep together, follow them up with practical sessions, and then close it out with SARXs and build that for the entire 2025 fiscal year. Okay, we're just waiting for the group commander thing to kind of get shaken out and making sure the group commander's on board with all of that, because that person's got to sign off on it. So we got a plan to kind of touch base on all of it. So whether you want to get into base staff, you want to start something entry level like MSA, MRO, you know, or CUL, and kind of work your way up that way. If you want to get involved with ground team, if you want to get involved with air branch, I mean, I can't think of a better spot in Group 3 than starting here at Squadron 5 for air crew. You know, I mean, the best of the best is this is the heartbeat of the air branch of Group 3. So, but if you want to explore your other options, I think there is, and I'll be happy to help. I'm right here at Flaybob, so it's not exactly too far, you know. So, and we'll be putting some stuff together once we get past this fiscal year thing. Any questions?
How do you start? What is the
So the first thing is really kind of go through the famine prep.
so maybe you can share some splitters prerequisites.
All right, we're gonna pick on you, Andre.
Oh, it's easy because I didn't do anything for ground.
Exactly. So if you guys didn't know, if you got a fancy nickname like, or a fancy last name like Tikhonov or
Oh,
Gopassin,
Gopassin.
you know,
You just
you just put your name in, right? All right. So Squitter, where you start with ground team is really going to be ground team level 3. Okay. So ground team level 3, we like to say you know enough to go out into the field and know not to pet the rattlesnake. Okay. And realistically, there's a safety thing. You're going to be hiking. You're going to be out in the elements. We don't know what you know, right? You know, as a kid, I spent 4 years in Great Falls, Montana. We used to go hunting, hiking, you know, backpacking, camping, no running water, right? You catch a fish, you cook it in the cast iron skillet, and for some reason, when you wake up, that skillet is lit clean. You don't want to know why, but it's clean. Okay. You know,
that's a life hack.
yeah, right?
Don't wash a skillet.
Yeah. But you know, maybe you grew up in a condo and you never got exposed to that. This is kind of a base foundation training, right? So just like any specialty, you got your squitter to go through, and a lot of these are very basic. So the first one here is prepare in the ground team individual. It's your gear. It's what you see me wearing here. 24-hour pack. Conduct individual refit, the 4 R's. Okay, so when I go out on sortie, I'm supposed to replenish, replace, repack, or repair, and rest. Right, I have to get ready for the next sortie. Prevent, treat hot weather injuries. You're going to go out in 100-degree weather. How are you going to prevent yourself from becoming part of the search? On the flip side, cold weather injuries. Identify natural hazards. I identified a big black widow spider over here. Okay, when I got here, that's a natural hazard.
Did you feed it or kill it?
I didn't have my chopsticks, so I didn't. You know. Okay, prevent and treat fatigue. That's something that you guys do in the air, right? Okay, same thing out there. Field sanitation. You know, bringing some wet wipes with you in the field can make a whole slew of difference, right? Use a compass. You do become one with your compass and ground team. Okay. Conduct actions if lost. If you get lost out in the boonies, what's the best thing you can do?
Call a friend.
Find water. Head downhill. Okay. Exercise universal precautions. get lost, don't lose your head, right? Conduct a phone alert. From what I understand, that's changing. How do you get invited on a mission? You get a text, email, or call. That's essentially that. Back in the day, we had these recall rosters and all that good stuff, but I think they last did this in 2004. I had hair back then. So, once you've done that, we kind of say, hey, you can go out into the field and know not to pet the rattlesnake. And then from there, we kind of go through some of the other stuff, right? So you got to have your basic first aid training. You can do this through CERT. You can do this through, basically you just got to have basic first aid. Because the whole purpose of you going out there to try to save a life, well, you got to be able to save one, right? You got to know basic first aid. Perform radio procedures, as you said. Radios is a heavy part of what we do, okay? I carry 2 radios and an inReach GPS when I'm fully geared up. So, radio frequencies, simplex. When we did the last SARX, Chuck Dillon and I were communicating, and then I accidentally flipped the channel over. I'm even using hand signals to try to talk to Chuck up in the airplane, who was the observer. Determine the distress beacon, so that's ELT hunting. That's all that UDF stuff, but we like to do it on off the pavement. Scanning techniques, if you're walking through a wooded forest, hey Joe, you here? Right? How are they not going to know if they don't hear you? Move parts of the searchline, like we had talked about. Communicate to other members. Halt the line, forward the line, that type of stuff. Whistle signals. So you go through each one of these tasks just like you've done with air crew, with radios, as scanners, observers, mission pilots, AOBDs, operations section chiefs. It's the same thing. But a lot of it is being able to go in there and find someone. When you graduate to ground team member 2, like I said, a lot of this has to do with navigation, being able to orient yourself based off the topography map. So if I go to, and I flip this, scan topos, identifying that, you see the mouse? Okay. So here it's saying that 7,589 feet, right? And knowing that these rings are 20 or 40 feet in elevation change, okay? That's what you're seeing. So when you see several rings like that, you know that it's steep. When you see spaced out, you know it's not so steep, okay? So level 2, a lot of it is very much about land navigation, okay? Knowing how to navigate through a wooded area or out in the sticks and getting yourself back, right? It's one thing to just walk back, but how are you going to get back? That's the key, okay? And in ground team level 1, that one really is, you really are the right hand of the ground team leader. And ground team leader, it's one of the more difficult ones. As you can see, there's 50 tasks that you must complete to be a ground team leader. That's a lot compared to other ones. You guys know how many roughly there are for a scanner? About a dozen-ish probably, right?
Common prep, about 20.
Yeah. And observers about there.
About 10.
Yeah. And you got 50. Albeit one of them is you got to be 18 years old, right? But there's 50 tasks. That's a lot to go through, right? Set up shelter. Making sure you do it in the right way. If you got wind blowing, you want to make sure that that's not blowing right into your front door. You got to pivot it, right, and turn it. Make sure it's sitting higher on the ground so it has a chance for rainwater is not going to collect and go in and wash you away. Identify major terrain features. Can you look at a map and say, hey, you know what, that's a little too steep to climb, right? You got to be able to do that. Measure distance on a map using a scale. So there's a lot of these different things that go into it. Ground team leader is a very, very difficult one, and it takes a lot of time to do it because ultimately you're very much in charge of everyone's safety, and safety comes first above all. Your job number 1 is to make sure everybody comes home. And then what makes it even easier is that if you go slide over to ground branch director, That one actually might be the easiest of all of them. So there you go, Andre. We're gonna slide you over.
I'm almost ready.
Almost there. Almost there. We're gonna get you a UDF. So. So, like I said, it takes a while to go through all of that stuff. That's a lot of stuff to go through. Any questions on ground team?
Who wants to join?
Out of curiosity,
Mhm.
you go out there, you find somebody, person you're looking for. What is the protocol from there?
It depends. So before you go out onto, just like you've gone out on an air crew, you're going to go out with an objective. Okay? You're going to be given a task. So you're going to do what that task is. So the ground branch director is going to say, this is your task. If you find this, or if you do this, or you come across this, they should be giving you, instructions on what to do with that. So we do the last SARX. We planted a target in Silverwood. So you're coming into Silverwood, one of the first big vista points. It's an old place that I used to go fishing. I used to hike down there. So it's kind of like down in this whole ravine area. And we put that 4-foot wingspan glider next to an ELT beacon. Okay? So to simulate a crashed airplane. So we're there to see if we can save a life. Right? So that's what the intentions of you are to go out there. But maybe you're just going out there to do security. Maybe you're out there to go hand somebody a flyer. Maybe you're out there to go do an interview. That mission that I did in 2000, one of the tasks that we issued a ground team as is that somebody said that they heard a low-flying aircraft around the time that airplane took off. We did a route search. We did a creeping line search in that direction from Bartow Airport to that individual's house, as well as where we thought he actually did a flight plan. So we sent the ground team out there, and you have your interrogation forms. Say, hey, what did you hear? Do you have any other information for us? That comes back, it gets debriefed, ran through planning, and then planning says, okay, ops, go do this. So it changes depending on what you're there for, right? You may or may not be out there to save a life on that particular sort, but the ground branch director is going to give you those directions. Does that answer? Try to
But
be more
if
thorough.
you are there to save a life and you found the subject of your search, you just radio in the aerial support or maybe more advanced ground resources like ambulance or whatever to evacuate the person, or maybe you carry that person out.
Participate in a litter carry is one of the tasks you do. You got to carry me out. All right. Any other questions?
Out of curiosity.
Yes, sir.
What are you carrying right now?
Excuse me?
What are you carrying right now?
This is my 24-hour. It's a little on the light side because I don't have all of my tech that goes on. I usually have 2 VHF radios and I have a Garmin InReach that I keep right here.
The stuff in the back is not 24 hours. All that 24 hours?
So the way that I'm built
What,
is,
you got them all in there or something?
yeah, anything that I may need on the fly, I have here. This is going to break out because most of my medical stuff is here. Because if I'm attending to somebody for medical reasons, I'm likely going to kneel down. So, rubber gloves.
But a standard member or a basic ground team 3 person doesn't carry that, does he?
No, I carry a little bit more because I'm a leader, or ground team
That's
leader.
what I mean.
Yeah, I do carry a little bit more as a ground team leader, but
you carried a lot more because you're a leader.
I've dumbed it down some because weight is kind of hard to carry. That Big Bear one, I had about an extra 100 pounds on me, and for a 2,000-foot elevation change in 5 miles, that kicked my butt. So back when I had hair, I could do all of that stuff.
Old age.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting old.
So you really haven't covered a lot of stuff here. So let's just take today Big Bear and its temperature, which was
84.
about 80 degrees. No, 78 degrees. Your density altitude is just about 9,000 feet, 88 feet. the elevation of the airport is 6742.
I believe that's right.
So when you start looking at temperatures, you got to start considering density altitude because you're in rarefied air. You're not at sea level.
Correct.
Are you considering all that?
Yes and no. You know, you kind of have a responsibility to be in shape enough to make sure you're going out there and being able to hike, but I don't think it's going to impact me as a ground team individual as much as it is you as a pilot. But yeah, is it going to be harder because you're so high up there? Absolutely, it's going to be harder.
No, hypoxia to a degree could be an issue. A lack of oxygen.
Yeah.
If you are not trained and you're not fit, there will be medical
It'll kick your butt.
challenges.
Yeah.
What is the difference in percentage from being in Big Bear Airport, 6750 MSL and MSL? What's the difference in do you have like 75% less oxygen?
I don't know, honestly. I've done both,
You
and
don't know?
yeah, I know it's going to be it's harder up there because the air is thinner. But
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
no, I don't have a stat on that.
Okay.
I give you some examples for oxygen in relation to skiing. So if I'm skiing at 10,000 feet, it's like
It's
smoking
real
a cigarette
thin.
at 18,000.
Yeah, that's real thin up there.
So when you start thinking I'm smoking a cigarette, you see all the young kids smoking cigarettes. The effective altitude is 18,000 feet.
Every 33.
I believe that.
That's an ounce.
So you got to figure out the amount of oxygen. You can come up with horsepower ratings and everything else, but there are some charts that will give you a temporary oxygen level. And if you don't carry the little finger bit to stick on your finger, it's surprising. It's battery operated, but it'd be surprising just to see what your oxygen level was. And it's pretty.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting. We had to pull the plug on the last Big Bear one, but we're planning to go back up there. Maybe that's something we can integrate into it.
You buy one of those, and they're not really that expensive. But the other day, my daughter took a reading off me, and I was 98% oxygen level at Redlands. And I'm kind of acclimated at Redlands. I'm pretty well accurate. I should say, I'm not as good as I used to be, but at Lake Arrowhead, which is 5107, is lake level.
Okay.
And walking up the car again, I started huffing a little bit better, more than I used to.
Yeah, no,
But I'm kind of out of shape too.
well, I'm in shape.
That's a 24-hour survival.
Round is a shape.
It's called a handle.
Right? I got a harness to hang on to, right?
See, Mike, you can weigh yourself down to death if you really want to be in the ground team, the way I look at it, versus going and staying fairly light, and if you take and divide stuff up between 2 or 3 members as you work as a team,
Yeah.
you can take and survive for quite a long time.
What-
Most of the things you can survive with a few granola bars and some water, you can survive for 20 or 48 hours easy.
Yeah, I carry water purification pills, a couple of MREs. What you can't see here is I have a 3-liter Camelback, and then when I go out, I usually carry an additional 3-liter Camelback in my bag. So that way, you have water. You never know, right? You did a little Boy Scouts, right? So it's always be prepared, right? I'd rather have a little bit extra water because that's the one thing that's always going to get you, to have some of that. And then the meals, 24-hour pack is supposed to have 2 meals in it. So, that type of stuff I don't need in a pinch while I'm marching, right? But I am going to need my compass, right? I might need my task guide. I might need my writing utensils. I might need my flashlight. That's the stuff that I carry, and that's how I built this, is to be, when I'm moving, anything that I may need while I'm moving is all here. Anything that I need to help someone, or I'm going to be stopping a meal, doing first aid, that's in my bag, because the bag's going to come off, and I'm going to be, working with my hands at that point. That's kind of how I built it. Almost ground team member 3s have done it, as everything kind of goes into a bag similar to this. It's kind of how they go with it. I do carry a few extra things because you're a ground team leader and you're expected to have a few extra things. But just to get into it, if you look up task O-00, or excuse me, O-0001, to get into ground team, you'll be responsible for everything that has a T next to it. That means the trainees need to have that as part of their gear in order to go out, because safety is the number one concern.
Another thing you consider, took a CPR class, it's a little packet. It's probably 2 by 2 by 3/4 of an inch. So if you're going to take and give them some mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on the way out, you drop this piece of plastic over it, and it's so light, it only weighs about 1.5 ounces. And you can order these things, and they're cheap as all get out. That's a safety measure, and it's no weight to you, really.
No, that's actually one of the things they talk about quite a bit in the first aid class, just because it especially since COVID, you try not to, pass germs as much, right? So it puts a barrier. Does everybody understand what Bob's talking about? Mm-hmm. So if you're giving CPR, it's basically something so you're not in direct contact, and it gives an extra layer of protection so the germs aren't passing. Anybody else?
I still think you're carrying way too much. No, personal opinion.
Got a stream down. Slim down a little bit. I was carrying way too much, and
I
it kicked my butt.
used to go camping out of Lone Pine, Bishop, go fish for a week, and I was only carrying 100 pounds, including the bear box.
My current 72-hour pack, which is a 90-gallon Kelty rucksack, right, I don't even know if you can get them anymore. It was built after I was a cadet and doing ground team. So you had that in you. But it was built 100% to be able to hike into Silverwood on a Friday night and come out Sunday afternoon or evening. And that's exactly what I built it for. But some stuff that I incorporated from it were stuff like a signal mirror. If you got a signal mirror or a CD back in they used to do back in the day, now you actually carry a signal mirror, because if you get lost in the woods, to be able to catch somebody from the air. There's stuff that you can take away from ground team training that you'll use in your everyday life as regular search, just camping and survival stuff. But the mission for Civil Air Patrol isn't necessarily for you to be a Navy SEAL and come out and, holding your Rambo knife between your teeth and all that other stuff. It's, the opportunity to go in there and save a life, and you gotta get the mission done.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Aaron, appreciate it. So on the third meeting of the month for emergency services, I will bring the survival gear from airplane, which is standard issue to all Civil Air Patrol aircraft. And we will talk also about equipment the typical aircrew should be bringing to the missions to make it a successful mission, B, take care of your well-being, and C, should anything happen and we get to land off airport somewhere in a remote place where we can survive until help is on the way. Okay, and of course at any time, if you have any ideas for any presentations, you're welcome to offer your suggestions. And we have our own health officer, Michelle. Maybe we can ask her to give a presentation on medical aspects of survival, how to prepare yourself for something unexpected in our lives. All right, that's top of the hour. Thank you, everybody. The meeting is over. Thank you all who joined online.